Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to my monthly regular video. Everything in bud, spike and bloom on the 8th, on the 9th, as is often happens. I do it on the 8th when I can. Yesterday was the 8th and it was also my day off, so we're doing it on the 9th. One of the other reasons is that the 8th falls on Sunday when it's Sunday chat time. So some other things do get in the way. If I was going to a show or something, then it would change its date. But it is a regular occurrence once a month around the 8th. That's the best I can do. I'm not in a good mood today. It's those electronic gates causing hassles again. Now, they stopped working quite a long time ago. I forget how long, but at least probably 5 or 6 weeks, quite a long time ago. And next door organised a guy to come and look at it. They did that yesterday and booked it in for 9 o'clock this morning before they asked me if I was going to be around to deal with it, because they're both at work. So that was good planning, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm normally in on weekdays, so I said, yes, that's okay, that's fine. So basically the problem with the gates was that only one of them opened and it never closed. So much for an automatic gate system. So there was obviously something quite wrong. He said at a reasonable cost he would come out, fix it if he could, but at least identify what was wrong. So that's what he did. And the first thing he found was that one of the sensors, obviously to automatically close, the sensors are there to stop the gates closing if there's something in the way. And there's a pair of them on the outside of the gates and a pair on the inside. And one of the sensors on the outside was not getting power. The whole system runs at 24 volts, and he said that sensor's only getting 3 or 4 volts. So there's a short somewhere. So he basically replaced the wire between the like the motherboard, the control box, and the sensor. It took him a while. Everything had to come apart, new piece of wire cut in, and all that sort of stuff. So that got the sensor working again. But one of the gates still didn't work. So he said, I hate to tell you, but I think the motor's blown. He said, this thing, it's got power. He said, I put the voltage meter on the power input. There's power there. And he said, to make absolutely sure, I got a 24 volt battery out of the van and plugged that into it. So I was forcing 24 volts into there and it still didn't move. So he said, your motor's gone. Well, how much is that then? Oh, that'd be about £600. I cannot believe the cost of what is basically a farty little motor. The controls and everything are separate. It is a motor. You put power on it and it goes. And obviously there's a mechanism where you put power on it and it goes the other way. In other words, open and close. Anyway, so next door booked it. So as far as I'm concerned, I presume somebody will knock on the door when they get home from work and ask how it went, and I can tell them. But at that price, I don't know what they're going to want to do next door. The other thing he said is that the system is well past its lifespan. He said these are give or take around the 10-year mark and they start going wrong and eventually they fail. And he said obviously you've now got a major failure with a motor gone. Thanks a lot. And he said the other thing you can do is just switch to manual gates. Don't have automatic gates, just put some drop bolts on them. So use the side gate to come in and out, and when you want to open the big gates, just lift the drop bolts, open the gates manually, lock them in place with the drop bolts, do whatever you need to do, and then reverse the process and close them up again. In other words, you don't use the motors and the power system. The intercom still works, so you still get your parcel deliveries, and when people want to call round, they buzz, all that sort of thing still works. That's nothing, effectively the intercom is nothing to do with the gates, apart from there's a button on the intercom to open the gates, which obviously won't work now because the gates don't work. So I'll have to discuss it with them. My main problem is the landlord paying for it, which is getting money out of her is almost impossible. What she does is she basically says, okay, I'll authorise the funds, but you can take them out of the rent next time the rent's paid. That's paid every 3 months. So if this guy does the work like now in December when I've just paid my rent, he's not going to get his money till the end of February. I can't accept that. That's not fair. The landlord doesn't give a monkeys, obviously, otherwise, you know, she would pay him. So the only thing I can suggest is to try and arrange with the agent and the landlord via the agent that I pay the guy and it gets deducted from the rent at the end of February. In other words, I pay the rent less the amount I've already paid. I'll work on that as a possible. But it's just annoying. It's messed me up for the day, spoilt my day completely. I can't afford to pay that before Christmas. I've just paid me rent, you know. I can't afford another lump sum, otherwise we won't be having any Christmas. So anyway, back to the video, which is the everything in bud, spike or bloom. And I've started in the kitchen. I'll have to really play with the light electronically because obviously even with the lights on, the light coming in through the window is brighter, so I've got a silhouette. I'll have to electronically play with it. But we have got some things to see out here. Now, most of these are just hybrids. They don't have names, so I won't bother even trying to find out any. But this first one here has got a nice spike. The second one here has got a spike that's pushing on nicely and the buds are swelling. I've put all the ones with spikes together, basically. And then this one here. There's another reason for having the spikes up this end, is when I use my halogen oven, this area gets hot. The air gets hot. And if the spikes were up this end, obviously they'd be getting warm when I use the halogen oven. So having them up this end keeps them a bit cooler. And then we've got another nice spike coming on here. This one's actually got a branch as well with several buds on. And this one looks like it's going to have a branch too. So that's those three. And then this one, this is the one that was in the glass jar from my son, that we had to smash the glass jar to get it out. This is now in bloom. There's still some buds to come, but it's a shame really, because that is a phalaenopsis I would never buy. I'm not that keen on those blotchy ones like that. I've done some watercolour painting in my time, and this is what wet on wet looks like in watercolour terms. You wet the paper, you get it soaking wet, and if you flick little splashes of paint, they bleed, and that's what they look like. Anyway, nothing else in spike up here. Now coming down here, I've only just noticed we've got one coming here, so that's just emerged, that one there. And then we've got another spike here, and that's obviously progressing. The buds are hardly showing. And then we've got another one here. So effectively in the phalaenopsis frame, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7. And for me, I'm pretty pleased with that. It means there'll be a nice splash of colour in here sort of through January and February in the dull months, you know, when there's not much else going on. So anyway, off out into the grow room. Okay, and those of you that watched the Sunday chat video, what you mean you didn't? That's the one I expect most people to watch for some strange reason, which I still don't really understand, but it's the most popular. This one's not ridiculous amount behind, but the Sunday chat video, unless I have some sort of disaster or catastrophe, which is always the most popular video, sad that is. This one doesn't get a bad set of views, but those that did watch and listen to the Sunday videos, remember I had an outbreak of flies in here. Now they are sort of under control. but there are still a couple around each day. I mean, that was Sunday. It was bad the day before. It was still pretty bad on the Sunday. But today, I think I've swatted about 3, maybe 4. And there's one flying around now, so there is up there, look. So there is still one around. And it looks like there might be one up on the edge of the roof there, between the top of the side and the bottom of the roof. Looks like there might be one there. Looks like there's one up there. So that's 3. See, 3 I can live with. I'll swat them as and when I get round to it. Anyway, we'll do it like we usually do. We'll start on the left over here. And the only thing in bloom over here on the left I can't get at. I'm going to have to hold the camera up above my head. So I'll have to see what I can do. There's no point in zooming in on it because I need to get up above it. And this is my hybrid Latoria type dendrobium. Hang on, I'll have to turn the screen down so I can't see what the hell I'm doing. There we go, something like that. No ID, but it's like infundibulum, but not. It is quite different. And it's got a gorgeous colour in the lip, lovely pristine white, and oh, that's hurting my back. And we have a nice pair of buds on the top of that cane. I'm not sure there's any other buds coming. That's not on the new growths. The new growths are here, which they are both still growing. They're still pushing on. So that's on the previous, one of the previous growths. So that's that. Oh. Now, I don't know if I can get at this. I will try. I will try. So I've got to hold the camera up in the air again and tilt the screen over and hit the zoom. If I can find it, because I can't see what the hell I'm doing. There we go, somewhere over here. There. And that's my Laelia anceps, which has a spike and now has a bud. So we are going to get a bloom on it. Oh, I can't hold this camera up like that. I've got my back arched. I'm at full arm stretch, and that is what I class as uncomfortable. Now I don't mind putting myself out a bit, but I'm not doing uncomfortable. We don't do that. Oh, that's better. Straighten up. Right, then down here we've got this Paphiopedilum here. It's got 3 buds on, and 2 of them are starting to push out. They come out of the sheath, and effectively what you're looking at here is mostly the lip. Yeah, that's the bit that hangs down. But we'll have 3 in bloom at the same time here. That's Lianum, and then oh, I have to be a contortionist here. This is Blackjack, Paphiopedilum Blackjack, and we have a bud on there as well, just the one at the moment. And then this one is actually in bloom, and I can't for the life of me remember what that is. That is Villosum, and it's variety Amboinense. Bit of French tucked in there. And then I'm going to pick this up because I'm not bending right down there to do a picture of a bloom. I've had enough bending today. And we have a Restrepia in bloom. Am I going to do pop-ups? Yeah. I can sit comfortably at the laptop and fiddle around doing pop-ups and, you know, names and stuff like that, and pictures of stuff that's in bud, and do all that sort of thing to calm me down, because I'm not in a good mood. I don't like having to spend money on maintenance, but well, I've explained it all. Anyway, we have a bloom on a Restrepia that's it's one of the smallest Restrepia blooms that I've got, but it's also one of the most attractive. It's also one of the most awkward to try and get the camera to focus on. But there we go. And I want to come over slightly sideways just to show you it's not all about what looks like the lip, but it's not. It's also the shape with those antennae sticking up, of which there are 3 one out each side and one vertical. Anyway, so we have a Restrepia in bloom. That's over here done. Let's put that back where it goes before I forget, lest we forget. So that's that. Oh. Right, now I can't do all of the Cymbidiums because I can't get to them, but this is obviously fading, and this is the nice bright yellow one, but I can get at it. And we have another spike coming here, and up the back here we have another one coming, so that's got more spikes coming. Now this is the sort of bronzy coloured one. This spike is just starting to go. Now, these are both hybrids, they've got no ID. The blooms on this one are one of my favourite Cymbidium blooms. It's just very attractive. And like Hannah said, a lot of your Cymbidiums have got good colours, Dad, because a lot of them are a muddy colour. You know, they're not quite green, they're not quite brown, they're not quite red, they're a sort of muddy colour in between. This one has got lovely colours. So very attractive, that one. Again, no idea, as I just said, and that's got another spike round here, bent over. Basically all the Cymbidiums are in bud, but this one tucked in here is progressing. As you can see, we've got spikes, quite a lot of spikes on that one. I think there's 6 or 7, maybe more, and they're all starting to push their buds away, and that's a project that's either tomorrow or the day after. I'll be watering tomorrow, so it'll be a tomorrow job while I've got it down. All of those spikes, or most of them, need staking because some of them are overlapping, and I want to spread them out so that when it's in bloom, the blooms are distributed around the whole plant. So that'll be a nice little sort of thing to watch as a video. This one's obviously well progressing as well. That's my little miniature Cymbidium showgirl. And then over here we've got the Cymbidium copper, which opens quite pale, but as it ages relatively quickly, it starts to get where it gets its name from. So it's starting to colour up a bit now. And again, large and very attractive blooms. What attracted me to this was the colour of the lip. It's a gorgeous yellow with a real deep maroon colour in the patterning. So yeah, nice one. And then we may be losing Hibiki. Now I've had this happen several times in the past. It's still got blooms, still got viable blooms on it that are very attractive. This was a mass of green until recently, and it's dropping all of its leaves. But it did a massive new growth all at the same time. Yeah? And it is semi-deciduous. So after a while the canes become deciduous. Now it could be that because these canes are all the same age, they're all becoming deciduous at the same time. And come the longer days, it may push out another load of new growth. And it might be dying. I've got no way of telling, but I've had several of these in the past, and often they bloom for a long time, and then after they finish blooming they keel over, and I've had several go that way. But this one wouldn't be totally lost because it has actually got some kikis with roots, so I could hoik them off and do those. Oh, those are separate. Oh, back trouble again. Right, down here we have Paphiopedilum White Lady, which is still doing well. Nice patterning on the top one of the sepals, and a nice big bloom. And I bought that because it's such a good plant, as well as the fact that it was in bloom. So that's that one. That's that shelf done. Right, then we come up here, we've got this Nobile is in bloom. The Nobiles have all got buds on in places. Goodness knows what that is. That is a Nobile. What on earth is that? It's on the top of an old cane, well, an older cane. It looks like it's going to be 3 or 4 blooms. Oh, we'll have to wait and see. That's interesting, that is. But yeah, there's buds coming out in various places on the Nobiles. There are things coming out on that really tall cane that goes up into the roof, but I don't think they're buds. I think they're going to be kikis. In which case I shall throw them in the bin, because I've nearly had enough of that plant, because all it seems to do is produce kikis. Right, so this Nobile actually had an accident with the fly swatting exercise, because it fell on the floor and basically it broke this cane off, and it broke several blooms off, and has obviously snapped a few which will now die. But thinking back, I'm still not absolutely sure why I bought that, because it's not exactly a spectacular bloom. It would be if the yellow in the lip was a deeper colour. It's sort of okay, and it wasn't a bad plant with 2 nice new growths on it. Although it's now 1.5 new growths, because obviously that's not going to progress anymore. Right, so that's that. And then over here there are 2 of these plants, and they are forgotten. Where's the tag? Oh, I'm going to do pop-ups anyway. So Bratonia Shelob Marie, and the other one had 3, maybe 4 spikes on it, and this is the last one. This is the last of the blooms of the pair of plants. And these are attractive, spidery nonsense nearly, but they've got nowhere near long enough petals and sepals to be classed as a brassia in my book. So Bratonia crossed with a Miltonia, obviously. Nonetheless attractive. And if they could get a little fraction of sun on it now and again, also fragrant. And then coming along here we've got the, what are these? These are Oncidopsis, aren't they? Yeah, Oncidopsis, and it's Nellie Isla Red Velvet. And it was bought in bloom, so these are not my blooms. And it had 2 spikes on it with open blooms, or blooms that were open with more to come. What is that? Just a bit of damage. These are attractive blooms in my opinion, because they're simple. The simplistic beauty of a single colour with the tiniest splash of an opposite colour. So red with bright yellow. Very fragrant, nice lemony fragrance. And it also had 2 other spikes coming on. The first one has just opened over there, so the other 2 spikes are here. These are the older spikes, and this one looks like it's starting to fade a bit, and this one's still not doing too bad. Right, and then here we come, back-breaking time again. Right, twist the screen round and get up to here. And this is Dendrobium infundibulum. It's got 2 open blooms at the moment. These are large and pristine white with the gorgeous deep gold yellow in the lip. Very, very attractive Dendrobium. That's a black hair type again. I've got a feeling when we were looking at the other one I might have said Latoria type. Strike 1! Black hair type basically. Although they do have similarities in growing conditions, so that's that one. Oh. We're going to end up with everything aching after this flipping video. Down here we have tiger tail, and it's a single spike. This isn't the plant's buried over in there. The spike grows through the plants and hangs out here where I can see it. And again, attractive blooms, and this is a colour changer basically. The very pale yellow in the lip fades to cream, and the yellow background to the red blotches, that also fades a bit. So when it opens it's got quite a good strong yellow in places, and then as it ages that fades to a paler yellow, more creamy colour. And then we have our Miltoniopsis Her Alexander, or Alexandrae to be technical. Very attractive blooms, very fragrant. And I've been asked many times, well, what is the fragrance? What does it smell of? And there is a distinct smell that Old English roses have. Yeah, it's a distinctive smell. There is also quite a distinctive smell for soap. If you put the two together, that's what it smells like to me, a mix of roses and soap. Some may not find that attractive. I do, it's okay. Right, so that's that one. And then we come round to a Coleogene. And I don't know what it's called, I'll be doing pop-ups. This is starting to go over. If you look over here, this is the last bloom on this spike, but it still has another bud to come. This one's gone, so this is going to be the last bloom on this spike, then that'll be finished. And this spike over here, this bloom hasn't long been opened. The other two are starting to go, but again, we still have another bud. So it'll be in flower for a while longer. A creamy white colour, almost bordering on straw. So you could say it's straw fading to white, creamy white. But the colour in the lip, I've had lots of ideas, and bronzy gold is pretty good stuff. Bronzy gold is pretty good. I don't know how close I'm going to be able to get. Trouble is I have to go around sideways to be able to see the colour really. But attractive nonetheless, and quite large. So, and again, that was in bloom when I got it, so those aren't my blooms. Right, where are we now? Coming round here. These Restrepias over here, there's one up the back that's got a bud on it, and there's also one here that's got a bud on it. But just to be awkward, neither of them are open today, so that's as far as we can get there. And then coming around here, the Coleogene at the back there does have the start of a spike down between two leaves on a new growth. It's currently about that big, and from here I can't get at it, and I'm not moving all the plants out of the way to film a silly little spike that big. It's not happening. Right, here we have a Coleogene that is a sequential bloomer, and I think this is possibly the third or fourth bloom on this spike. You can see the bud that will follow on behind it. Beautiful colour that never renders properly on video, and the relief, the structure of the bloom is pretty special. It's also unusual in as much as you can see the three sepals and you can see the lip, and you think, well, where are the petals then? They're here. That's the other two petals, those little wispy bits. So it's a very unusual shaped plant. It's got another spike up here with the next bloom coming, so that's coming on behind, next bud. And then above that is the following bud, the bud that will follow on. And in addition to that, it's just started another new growth which is also going to bloom. This is good value for money, this plant. Now up the back there through that gap is my Coleogene cristata, and you should just be able to see the two spikes sticking up. They will progress very, very slowly until we start to hit the longer days, probably towards the end of January. It might not take that long, might be sooner, but once they start to move, they move quite quickly, and we should get a good group of blooms on both of those spikes. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Ow. Now we come round to the other Miltoniopsis, and just to be awkward, it hasn't quite opened. But what we can see is the size of what will be the petals, and we can just see inside. We have a lovely purple colour and a lovely deep maroon splash with a yellow centre. Coming soon, but not yet. Toad. All you had to do was open till 3 days early. Is that the end of the world? Right, nothing over here. The only Masdevallia I had in bloom has finished now. It might push up another one. It's done 3 or 4, but one after the other, only one at a time. There's nothing else in bloom here at the moment in the Coleogyny front, although there could be soon. I'll get to the last one that's in bloom. And then what we've got here is my Twinkle Pink Profusion. And trying to get to focus on this is not going to be easy, that's for sure. These are tiny blooms, but it's a lovely colour. It's a lovely rich colour, and this is one that goes the other way. The colour on the screen on video is better than the colour on the plant. So the camera's doing something to the colours, and it's actually making them better. Usually goes the other way around. Anyway, that's my only twinkle at the moment. If I can get this one to start growing properly, because it's not growing very well at the moment. It is growing, but it's very, very slow progress and not doing very well. If it picks up when we get into the growing season and all 3 of these plants start to move better, then I might look out for some more. I used to have quite a collection of these. I had a couple of named hybrids. I had the cinnamon one, I had a yellow one, I had a couple of pink ones, I had Tiny Twinkle, which was white. I had some pretty good plants as well, but they didn't take to moving house, they just went downhill and never made it. Anyway, and I'm going to say last but not least is another Coleogyny, and this is recently opened, and I thought it was just 2 blooms, but oh, it is. These are the sheaths. No, that isn't. That's a bud. There's another bud coming. Anyway, this is a typical Coleogyny bloom. Typical of many. It's white. It's a reasonable size. It's not in the category of the large white, but it's not far off. It's Moriana, and if it was Moriana magnifica, the bloom would be a third as big again. And it would be a brighter colour in the lip. But nonetheless, that is an attractive bloom. Beautiful colour in the lip. Lovely gold yellow, which is typical. They're not all that colour in the lip, and they're not all white. Some of them are brown, some are green. There is a variety of colours to the base bloom, and there is also variation in the colours in the lip. And even in the structure of the plant, because this has got relatively straightforward petals and sepals, but if you take cristata, the petals and sepals are wavy, and the overall bloom is bigger, but it doesn't look as big because the petals and sepals are wavy, they're not flat. Anyway, I think that is an attractive bloom. As orchid blooms go, that's not bad. So we'll end on that one, and I'll see you next time. We got a bit of work to do this week, so we might be over on the workbench poking around. We shouldn't be doing too much this time of year, but there's still some things can be done. So we'll see what we can find for you. And thanks for dropping by and all that. Don't forget the old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Don't forget the hype for whichever videos you like best. They don't have to be mine, but don't waste them. You only get 3 a week. And yeah, and don't forget the memberships, either on YouTube or on the Patreon site. All those things help this channel progress, and it's all appreciated. So bye for now. See you next time.